The session with the Young India Fellows today was predominantly on the research and writing of my first book, Remnants of Partition, that looks at oral history and material culture as the methodology to unearth an event like partition. I went through quite a visual explanation of my project, and then the questions I received were quite engaging, but also I was very struck by how thoughtful, how deep, how personal the questions were, how much people really imbibed the feeling of partition, how compassionate they were towards the subject, but also how they questioned the actual research methodology and how that methodology can be used for other projects. I was really struck by their awareness towards multiple ethnicities, multiple geographies, class, caste, and how they are very aware of the unequal planes in which history gets recorded. I'm trained as a visual artist, I'm trained as a printer. I studied to be an engraver, lithographer, I made books, I set type, I did screen printing. I arrived at oral history, and through that to writing, I came across the stories of my own family to do with partition that had never been recorded, and I felt me and other people of my generation, when we go to school and we learn about partition, it is done in a very removed kind of way that strips the stories of their individuality, and I didn't want my family members to be reduced to numbers. So I began writing their stories, and I began realizing how much their stories resonated with other young people. So you could say I started writing for my generation and for the generations that will follow mine. But it was also to record the generation of my grandparents. They needed to be written down for posterity. A lot of what I write is through trial and error. I am in the field attempting to understand my own subject on an everyday basis, because every interview is different. I'm constantly unlearning, recognizing prejudice I did not even know I had, relearning, being very grateful to be on the receiving end of these stories. It's a huge privilege to listen to people's stories and being let into these very intimate parts of their lives. And I think the last 10 years that I've devoted to this subject of partition have probably been the most illuminating for me. For a long time, I thought I would have to choose one or the other. I always feel a kind of imposter syndrome, even now, because I don't have any formal training as a historian. But I think what I undermined was how essential my training as an artist was, how holistic it really was. As I was recording these interviews, I was very aware of the manner in which people, their bodies move with their memory, because we are not one-dimensional people. We behave in accordance to how we feel and think, and what I was recording was the change in their voice, the change in the light, the colors of the room, when they laughed, how they cried, when they were silent. All of this could have only been instilled in me through a visual art education that shows you really how to observe the world.